Hello, welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. My name is Ayana Majabay, and I am an actress, voiceover artist, mentor, and your host. This show is a bi-weekly conversation highlighting pivots and life lessons from the perspective of artists, those who work in and around the arts, and arts educators. For those listening who don't consider themselves artists, you can pivot too. Everyone possesses the ability to do so. You just have to be reminded sometimes. All of our life lessons have taught us to be better pivoters, and it is my goal to share these life lessons to guide and inspire others. Here is this week's episode. All right, y'all. So on the podcast today, I am so excited to say that joining me is Kimberly Dodson, and she is a Baltimore native and a lover of knitting, contemporary art museums, video games, reading really good books, taking walks in new neighborhoods, true crime podcast, beautiful hikes, flowers, Indiana Jones movies, and let's be very specific, only the original 3, long talks with her friends who are all like family, and other cat-like, grandma-like activities like looking out of the window and taking naps. She also happens to make money primarily as a theater worker. She has been a working performer for over 8 years and has been employed by companies that are responsible for things you would never see and some things you may have. Her last long-term employment was with the company Train Times LP, or probably more easily identified as Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on Broadway. Y'all, Kimberly is here. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hello, hello. I'm so extra.
And I'm so here for it, though. That intro was everything.
I love it. I'm a human being first, everyone, and so are you.
Well, we're going to talk about that today as well, because as performers, we're not taught to be human beings first, but we all are human beings first.
Yes.
Before we are anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, so am I. So I'm going to start with this question that I love to ask.
I'm ready.
So if I asked you to text me right now and I say, Kimberly, how are you doing? You text me back, but you can only respond in emojis only. What would you text me?
It would be the girl with the flip hand emoji.
Yes.
Just first indicating, girl. So it'd be flip hand emoji. And then the swirly, the emoji that has like spiral eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the little, that kind of face. Because that feels appropriate for the last 2 years.
Fair.
That's
fair.
how it just has been. Like, I'm feeling good, but it's also like, what is going on?
Exactly. That's exactly it. I'm feeling great. I don't know what's happening, but I'm feeling wonderful.
I'm feeling fine. My fiance says, I hear him on the phone a lot, and he's like, I'm doing fine, all things considered, but there's a lot to consider.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes, I like it too. And so that is where we're at.
Yes. Ooh, that's a good one. Right. There is a lot to consider. Well, thank you so much for that imaginary text.
Thank you. Thank you for texting me. I enjoy it when people reach out.
Yes. Me too. I appreciate a good text, a good reach out text. Yes. So Kimberly, thank you so much for joining me today. And, we're here to talk about your pivots and your life lessons and things that you're still learning. Being a human who happens to work in the arts and to, let people know that they're not alone. Like, y'all, I had to make this pivot. Oh, don't worry. I learned that lesson as well in this way.
Yeah.
And so take us back to, I guess, the beginning of your career, like how your career started and then how you got to where you are right now. I know it's a long story, but you could give it to me.
Especially because the last 2 years are about 70 years.
Yes.
My career started right out of college, right after college. And I went to school for theater and dance, with a concentration in acting and performance studies and a double minor in dance and sociology.
Okay.
And I say that only because I was a burnt out freshman. I was always doing the most, pretty much ever since I started doing something. At 10, I was like dancing pretty much every day, pre-professionally. Got a job at 15. There's never been a time that I wasn't absolutely doing the most.
Okay.
So right out of college, I moved to New York, and I had already had an agent. I got it through the showcase that a lot of schools do. I was lucky because everybody in my showcase is white, and I was a little brown girl, and I also was interesting and had talent. So, so the agents were like, ooh.
Yes.
So I got an agent right out of that. A big commercial agent that I really didn't need, honestly, which is a whole other story that we all fall into, I'm sure. But I booked like very quickly when I got to New York. My first gig was Regional Theater, McCarter Theater, doing their Christmas Carol. And that's how I got my EMC card. And then I did a cruise ship. I got that cruise ship gig. And that honestly almost took me out of the entire game. Yeah. It was the first time that I really experienced like consistent microaggressions. And just lots of racism, lots of sexism. And I think it was the first time I was a part of a job that it was very clear some sort of larger entity really needed to be having a close eye on this workspace. Yes. It was my very first time, because McCarter is a union theater, even though I wasn't union. They were, treating us very well. It was also a very welcoming, warm environment. Yeah. This space on the cruise ship, I was like, why aren't we getting schedules? Why don't we know what time we're going to eat? Why don't we know what time we're going to leave? Why aren't we getting emails about this? I was the little brown 23-year-old who was like asking a lot of questions that they did not appreciate. So if anyone has ever worked on a cruise ship, you get these like evaluations where you have to sit down and talk to people for no freaking reason. And all of mine were, Kim, you're amazing at your job. All the guests love you. We have literally had to think differently about how we reteach these shows because of you, because it was like soul and 80s and, stuff that had flavor. And those Australians, like, I love them, but they weren't really about teaching that flavor. Yes. So they were like, wow, like my mind is blown at you being like in the pocket of this movement. But, and then there was always a but just the way you ask questions. If you could smile more when you ask questions, just seems like you are negative, all of these things, which is a much longer story. So there's in this cruise ship gig, there was an opportunity to say, which ship do you want to go to next? And I gave them a blank piece of paper. And I said, I will never see you all again. Yes. Which was probably wild for them because I was 23 and was like, no, I don't care. I want to do what I want to do and I'm going to do it. And it's never coming back here. But cruise ships are not easy. Like I've done two. They're not easy on your physical, mental, spiritual health. So I get why you gave that blank piece of paper. Because after my first ship, I swore I wasn't doing another one, but I ended up doing a second one like 3 years later. Which not after that company? Which company? First was Norwegian. Second was Royal Caribbean. See, I went right into that Dusty Busty Carnival Cruise Lines. Oh, and so okay. Well, I'm gonna say it. This is my podcast, so I'm gonna say it. Carnival. I'm sorry. That's the Walmart of cruise lines. I said it. dusty.
I said it.
Bless every single person who was a worker in the cruise line.
God bless.
Community. Bless every single person.
Yes.
I had a really hard time being on that ship, not only because of being a performer, but also because of seeing the conditions that the other workers were living in.
Yes.
I was the person that was interviewing everybody around the ship, being like, who are you? What's your name? Where are you from? Yes. Oh, you're from the Philippines. Like, for some reason, everybody else here. How many times do you get a day off? You don't? Okay. Right. I don't know how to work in this environment anymore. You know, it was very difficult for me to see the conditions that people were working in.
Yes.
And my not at all hot take is I don't think that cruise ships should exist at all. And and I'm like, leave this in because I've never said it out loud. But I know that a lot of people really enjoy working on them and feel like they have a really great life living and working on cruise ships. But like the environmental toll, honestly, and the toll on people's mental health of the workers is something that I'm like, I think we should really consider no longer.
It needs to change.
And especially after the pandemic, I'm like, it's been a petri dish for
long before I got sick on both of my contracts. Cruise ships were petri dishes long before the pandemic.
Long before. So yeah, after I did that, I actually stayed at home for a couple months. I had to recover mentally in my mom's house. I also, my boyfriend at the time cheated on me. So it was just, I got to refocus what I'm supposed to do. And then after that, I moved straight back to New York. And I mentioned me being burned out because I think at that point I decided to have like 3 or 4 jobs at a time while auditioning. And so I did a lot of, they weren't really called workshops, readings, labs, those things that don't really give you any credit for doing, for doing any of the work. And then I booked A Bronx Tale at Paper Mill. And that was the thing that sort of, jumped me on the train towards Broadway because I was the same choreographer as Donna Summer, which was ended up being my Broadway debut. So then I made my debut in, I don't know, what was that? 2018. And then moved to Harry Potter. And then that's a whole other story. But then I ended my contract with Harry Potter. I was like, I will not be returning. But 4 days before the end of my contract, a little thing called COVID came in and shut Broadway down. So that was sort of the before times. There's a longer story of the after times, where I think begins like my first thought about a pivot. At the end of 2019, really sort of in the middle of Donna Summer and Harry Potter, I started to get these sort of signs of people being like, Kim, you should probably think about writing or directing. And so I started to reach out to some directors that I had worked with. I sat in some rehearsal processes and basically made the decision that after Harry Potter, I would really try to dig deep into figuring out what starting directing meant. And also if I was going to continue theater, to like kind of focus my theater energy on the outskirts away from the neighborhood that is Broadway. But then the pandemic happened and I ended up moving to Baltimore with my partner, and now we live in Baltimore. And we're not moving back to New York.
Right. Okay.
So that's where I am now. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happened in between, but
Yes.
I'm gonna let you ask questions so I don't keep talking. Because it is long. It's been a long 8 to 9 years in the industry.
Understood. So now my question to you would be, if the pandemic didn't happen, do you think you would have moved back to Baltimore?
No, never.
Okay.
Never. Which I think is like just amazing and beautiful. I think like the pandemic brought a lot of suffering and sadness. And also I think the pandemic brought a lot of clarity. I realized how tired I actually was. I rarely ever went home. And that's just the life of the performer, particularly on Broadway. Sorry, I can't go to that family event because I have to work, or I might have an audition, which is, I can't tell you how many times I stayed home because callbacks are going to be around this time, so, yes. So yeah, it was never a thought in my mind. My partner and I had thought about moving upstate, doing what I called adult actor, the adult actor thing of basically really knowing what time your train is.
Yeah. All
the people with babies were like, yeah, I can stay, but I've got a 9:15 p.m. train upstate.
Yes.
So we thought about that, but we felt just so comfortable here. It's a much slower, smaller city, and we can actually afford a home to buy. So yeah, it was literally never even a twinkle in my eye. But I'm really grateful for it.
Yes.
Really grateful for it.
Yes.
To be closer. My entire family is here. So.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So it's nice.
Right. And you're close to your family and you can decide, I'm going to see my family today and not be restricted to that 8-show a week schedule.
Yeah.
That when you're removed from it, you realize how restrictive it is. And you're like, oh.
It's very difficult to explain to people because, you kind of explain it to other people and then they think about it and they go, well, really, you're only really working 7 to whenever the show is over. And it's like, no. I can't explain to you how much energy goes into preparing to go to the theater.
Yes.
And if you're not already, having an audition or a rehearsal, because of my life of being an ensemble member, understudy, swing, you are constantly in rehearsal.
Yes.
And then there's like that one day where you get to go to the doctor. And then that one day that you get to go to the doctor, your agent is like, will you please go in for this thing that you really don't want to do?
Yes. There's that. But now, and I'll say this, I guess, for myself personally, now I go, I don't want to do that.
Oh, I'm saying no to every single thing.
I go, no, thank you. I'm good.
No.
Call me the next one. No, thank you.
Maybe, but no.
Right. Maybe, but really no.
But really no. Like, it's really, I mean, yeah, my body usually tells me before my mind gets it out. I read the thing and it's like, oh, no. Why would I want to do that? For how much? $800? No, I'm sorry.
Right. Right. You're like you said, your body reacts before you even have the word. Oh no, I'm good. Okay, thank you so much for emailing me. I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much for reaching out. I feel like I definitely did get better at that in the last 2 years before the pandemic. It was really difficult, especially when I first got to New York, obviously, where you just have to go to everything to try and feel seen. But yeah, I've said no to Broadway auditions a lot, even before the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to do that show. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I just like, I think this idea of Broadway as the pinnacle and Broadway as the end all be all. I know why it is because that's where the money's at, right? That's where the security, to me, a false sense of security, but the best security that you can get in this industry right now.
Correct.
It is there. But I deeply apologize. I don't want to do ensemble member number 4, you know, anymore. So that's definitely been a big transition, to try and convince myself, to try and convince other people that it is okay that I am no longer excited about theater in the same way.
Yes. Yes. And that's fair. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow and pivot. And this new iteration of Kimberly is like, yeah, this is my new direction now.
Yeah.
And so I did want to ask you about, I know in the beginning of the pandemic, you had formed this I guess a coalition, if you will, of Black women from all different aspects of the theater industry. And you started a campaign. So I want to talk about that for a second.
Yes. Oh, wow. I mean, I feel like what actually started this thing was my time at Harry Potter.
Okay.
Of course, I didn't know that it would grow into this, of course, but I ended up reporting a crew member while I was at Harry Potter, because he was saying quite inappropriate, racist things in the workplace. His main one was, I like my coffee like I like my women dark and bitter. And he would then go on to talk about how his wife was dark skinned. It was like a whole thing.
Okay.
And this was 2019. And I reported him to company management and stage management. And I had a meeting with them. And one of my asks was anti-racist training. And he was not the only reason. Harry Potter is a pretty international cast in some ways. And it was very clear, with this Black Hermione character that they've decided to do, that there needed to be an understanding of why this was a pivotal choice that they made, also a risky choice, but also that meant that there would forever be Black bodies and Black female bodies and Black femme bodies in the space, right? And that everyone needed to make sure that those people were safe and felt like they could be safe in the workplace. And that was not the case. That was not happening. So I kind of won that, I got a little bit of anti-racist training added onto a anti-sexual harassment training that we had very late in our process.
Okay.
And so then the pandemic happens, and, we were all there. We all saw it, all of these awful stories being told by Black performers, some that still I can't get out of my head. But also, to me, this moment where for the first time I didn't feel alone in my understanding of what it meant to be Black in this space. I had spent the last 2 years really just feeling deeply uncomfortable within the Broadway community. But there was just something off. And what that offness was, in many ways, capitalism trying to push this sort of passion fantasy, we are doing our dream job, into this whole of we are doing commercial theater. And also this feeling of just like, why don't I feel safe? Why am I looking every day at what we're making on Broadway, just like deeply invested in this, in playbill about what this thing is making.
Yeah.
And then how many weeks I have to get my health insurance. And it's weird that I actually don't know how much anybody around me is making. It's weird that I don't know that. But I also know that somebody down the street is making $10,000 a week as a lead. And I think I'm doing more than that person. That person is singing about, 3 songs, and I'm over here moving a bunch of furniture. So, and really one of the first things that I said when I got to Broadway was, what if the Lion King went on strike? And people always thought that, oh, Kim, it's a little radical,
Right.
But I'm like, do you guys know what that would mean? Like, what would happen if the Lion King went on strike? And that was me thinking of myself as a worker, right? That was me thinking of myself as a person who had agency, that around me, there were a lot of people who had agency, who had power that was not yet being honed and used. So when this, the black squares went up and these stories of really feeling unsafe in the workplace came up, I just started writing things down, and I called people who referred me to other people, and it hilariously, like when I called a man, he would refer me to a woman, and it just accidentally ended up that everyone who said yes was Black women, and of course, and then it ended up that I sort of had the thought the where we will have the most power is if we recognize each other in these different facets of this industry.
Okay.
If a stage manager and an actor care about what happens to one another, then neither of these people have to do it alone, right? Yeah. If we as actors care that the crew is here 4 hours, 5 hours longer than we are, like then we get to be a voice for them in a way that they might be the voiceless because they are not in the limelight all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hooked up with these amazing women, and we had these great conversations of trying to like really ungaslight ourselves sometimes into believing that we do have power, we do have agency, we do deserve to feel safe in our workplace. That asking for something as simple as mental health resources on the call board is not something that anybody should think twice about. That asking for proper anti-racist training is not something that anybody should think twice about. And yeah, we sent letters to some powerful Broadway institutions, and we signed our names on them. And we said, these are the things that we think are the most important to reopening. And it was based on what so many other people were talking about. I think that was a great thing that happened. There were so many organizations that popped up. Some were based on representation. Some were based on, really labor rights in our industry. And this was the first time that I had ever heard ourselves call ourselves workers and theater workers.
Yeah.
Which is why my bio is like that. I think one of the big pieces that I think we continue to grapple with, all of us, is sort of stripping this idea of us not being workers. Stripping this idea of like, well, I'm on Broadway, and letting everyone's minds like run in the fantasy of how magical that is and how unlikely it is. And wow, what a choice you've made in your life. No, babes, I went to school for this. I studied now I'm doing the work. Now I am working.
Yes.
And so I think something like saying that I was employed by Train Times LP, which is the company, right, that Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is under, reminds people that, oh, you were employed.
There you go. There
right?
you
You
go.
were employed. You were a worker.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like living your dreams. You get a paycheck
Uh-huh.
and you go to work.
Yes.
Not High School Musical. You go to work. And so there are things that workers deserve that we do not get on Broadway because for many reasons, long list of reasons. But one of them is that we believe that we're so lucky.
Yeah.
So,
Understand that.
Yeah. That was most of my 2020, 2021 was this sort of coalition and this campaign. And then we did the thing where we had to go back to work, which it was just a year ago, but just that strange moment where everyone had to go back to work and we were all like, oh, what?
Yes. Oh, wait, do I? Oh,
how do I do this?
That part.
How do I do this?
How do I do this? I definitely went through that because I did a production here in Philly at the Walnut Street Theater. And I was like, I don't think I know how to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
I felt lucky that my first thing was an assistant directing gig.
Okay.
And so I kind of got to watch actors try and figure out how to come back.
Yeah.
And very straight. I mean, what I saw, I was lucky to do it here at Baltimore Center Stage. So what I saw was a lot of care. You know, you had to really care for one another in a way that felt very different from the before times.
Yes.
But that care is still, I mean, with us, with our coalition of Everybody Black, we just had to take the time to take care of ourselves, you know? That transition back is hard when you're trying to also convince people essentially that they deserve things. Like that's essentially what the campaign was. Like, don't you think you want a day off? And Broadway's like,
not really. But
actors are like, and crew is like, yes, and so it's a continued conversation and challenge. But I've been watching from my beautiful window here in Baltimore, looking in on the Broadway world and seeing how they are, and just hoping that everyone feels safe. That's all that I care about.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely that part, right? That everyone now, we can be in a workplace where we feel safe. Again, workplace.
Yeah.
That we feel safe.
Workplace. I know that's not, it's still a work in progress. I think I saw a lot of people really dip out very quickly because they really anticipated something to happen a lot faster.
Okay.
And I think I said to the women, like every other week, just a reminder, this is going to take a really long time. I had no anticipation of anything occurring. But I think the funny thing is how quickly they try to sort of soothe us with representation, which I always think is a powerful thing. That's the reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
If I didn't see Heather Headley in Lion King and Aida, then I wouldn't have thought that I could do this.
Yeah.
And also I said this to my partner. I'm like, I think representation is starting to feel like the Ben-Gay to capitalism. Ooh. That it feels good. There's something about it that's like, but it stinks. There's also just like,
right.
That's not, I mean, oh yes, but that's not what I
asked for.
That's not what I asked for.
Mm.
And so now all these Black people and these brown people have to suffer in the same way that I did because you brought more of them in, but you didn't change, you know, any of the working conditions that we talked about. You're not changing any of the pay practices that we're talking about. You didn't change the show must go on mentality that we've been talking about that needs to pass away and die. Okay, yeah, I'm really happy to see all those Black people, and I just really hope they feel safe. That's all.
Yeah. That's fair. That is fair. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so now I would like to ask you, and this could be, you know, an answer pertaining to any part of your life, whether it's I'm a human, I'm a theater worker, I'm a daughter, I'm a whatever. That it's, you know, a lesson in your life that you're like, yeah, that was a good lesson I had to learn, or I'm still learning, or, you know, yeah, that's my question. That is my question.
The lesson that so many. Goodness. I mean, it is really funny that you just never really become an adult in the way that you thought that you were supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm 31. Aren't I supposed to know something by now?
You do.
I know some things, surely. Surely. There's a lot that I don't know, though. I think I don't have to do so much. I don't have to do the most anymore.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm like actively working on right now.
Okay.
And also being okay with that. Like I said, as somebody who has been doing some sort of thing that she called work since I was 10 or 15, to have the pandemic literally say, sit your ass down. Can I curse? I already did.
Okay.
I already did it.
It's already happened.
Sit your little butt down. I have never, ever been the person to be sitting down somewhere and doing nothing. And I feel like, I mean, you know, it's definitely a Black woman thing. I have always felt like I needed to be doing something to matter, to be seen as valuable, and definitely had to be working, making money, or else I was at risk of not being able to take care of myself, even if that was true or not, you know? So it's been really difficult for me. I mean, the first year of the pandemic, every day, my partner had to be like, what do you think you're supposed to be doing? There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. Nobody is doing anything. And I'm convinced that people are doing something. And I'm not doing it. And so I got to do something. So, you know, I built a whole coalition and started a campaign and tried to change something. And even now, like, I mean, you know, in New York, and you had to, because there is no such thing as not working in New York unless you are independently wealthy. The amount of jobs that I had, my like laser focus on, you know, at the time getting to Broadway, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, that I feel like once that was gone, of course, I'm sure many of us had the, well, who am I now?
Yes.
If I'm not doing theater or Broadway, how do I know, and how do other people know?
Yeah.
and not even know like who I am, but that I'm great, that I'm fabulous, that I am interesting, that I am a hard worker, that I'm a Scorpio, so better than all the people who hurt me, like how do people know if I'm not highly achieving? And whoa, that when I recognized during this break that I actually like just being a living thing on this planet.
Come on.
Who enjoys the things that I enjoy and finds beauty in nature and, that I'm not a machine.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a machine anymore. That, it's a hard, amazing feeling because even as many times that I say, F capitalism, I still shame myself for not making money,
Okay.
So it's a constant process, but I think that's what I'm learning, and I'm trying to tell myself as a friend of like, baby girl, you've done enough. You've done a lot. You're even doing a lot right now. You're doing a lot right now.
Yeah.
Just not in the like traditional capitalist way of produce a thing, make money.
Yeah.
Right now I'm taking care of myself. I'm trying to be a student of acting again. I'm trying to add new things to my resume and try to think about longevity in this absolutely bonkers industry. So I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Slowing down. Do you follow the NAP ministry?
I don't.
Oh my gosh. Everyone should follow, particularly Black women and Black femmes.
Okay.
The NAP ministry on Instagram.
The NAP ministry. Okay.
Yes. They are very much like anti-capitalist, pro-naps. You will rest because it is revolutionary. You will lie down somewhere. You will take care of yourself. Yes. And that is one of the things that they don't want you to do.
Yeah.
Because we have assigned so much value in our labor, particularly Black women. So it's actually a part of our work.
Yeah.
Of liberation to lie down and dream somewhere.
I love it.
Yeah. It's very, in the before times that would not be the case for me. But it's really helping me. It's really helping me in this pandemic life of like taking care of you as a human being.
Yeah.
Is really, really important.
It is. It really is. And I love a good nap too. So like, I'm always here to promote naps.
Good. Naps are so good.
They are. They really are. And they're good for you. Like you said, resting. Like you can't be productive if you are tired and you're burned out. And like, there's a quote I have on my mirror that I love now. Of course, post-pandemic or we're still in a pandemic, but post-shutdown, post-shutdown part. Whatever this is. There's a quote that I have that says, taking care of yourself is productive. And like remembering that. Taking care of yourself is productive.
Yes.
Like.
Yes.
Period.
Period. That's it. That's the end of the sentence.
That's the end of the
Oh,
sentence.
you didn't do anything today? Really? I bet you did. I bet you drank water. I bet you took a nap. I bet you read a book.
Yep.
I bet you thought about your plans and goals for the future. I bet you
might have even made a list.
You may even made a list, and that's all you did. Great. Fantastic.
Yes.
That's all you need to do to be worthy. Yes. That's it. You exist, and so you are worthy. That's all.
That's it. So my last question to you would be, what is your little nugget of wisdom? So like if you were talking to somebody and you had to get up, you were on a subway and you're like, oh, I wanted to tell you that before the subway doors closed. Just a little nugget of wisdom. You got quick. You'd be like, oh, I forgot to tell you this.
I forgot to tell you this. I mean, what I want somebody to tell me is to delete Instagram, but
well,
that's what I want. Something around like, because I do think it's really important to feel like hear other people's stories and hear that you're not alone.
Yeah.
But also know that like that's that person's experience.
Fair. Uh-huh.
Like I think sometimes I seek some kind of clue in other people's stories.
Yeah.
And I think something that I learned in the past couple of years is that like that's valuable information, and also I'm going to learn my own thing.
Yeah.
That it's, I'm going to, this is my story. And also to not seek out idols. That's like one thing that I think is really hard for me.
Okay.
But I think I keep meeting people, and I want them to be some magical figured out being. And they're humans. I think that's what I mean, that I'm like actively seeking out some sort of answer. What should I do? What should I do? Yeah. What should I do in other people? And they don't got the answer.
Right. Like, Kimberly, I'm trying to figure it out like you are.
Right.
Girl, what?
Right. So I think also like trusting oneself enough to know that you will get wherever you need to be in your own time, your own time, in your own way.
Yes.
That's probably the biggest lesson.
Okay.
And then it all comes. It'll all come.
And then it all comes.
So.
Great. Yes. Oh, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. I feel like it's so funny because you asked me and I was like, I don't know successful pivot stories.
Okay, well then.
That's what I think, it's like about people who have successfully started a jewelry company or like, or who are now like purely TikTokers. And I'm like, I am in the middle of that pivot step, walk, right? I am, turning towards other things slowly. So it was a good reminder for me to be like, oh, there's actually been a lot of things that have changed, a lot of pivots that have happened.
yes, there has been. And thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so before I let you go, 2 things. One, if you do keep your Instagram, tell people where they can find you.
My Instagram is not interesting. I'm not like a IG girl or anything, but it's fun pictures of what's going on. But it's at kdots.com, Kimberly Dodson, KDOTS, COM. So that's me.
Okay.
You can see me try to do this slow pivot into, not slow, I guess I would spoke something, but this pivot into TV film, this pivot into whatever I'm trying to do to keep the theater industry in my life. And sometimes I talk shit. So
there you go.
What is Instagram for?
Right? So don't worry, y'all. I'll put that in the show notes so you can get in contact with Kimberly if you would like. And then I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
Yes, I feel all those things. Thank you.
You
can't
so
see me,
very
but
welcome.
I'm dancing.
She is dancing, and it's lovely. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Please feel free to visit this episode's show notes for links to get in touch with my guest, as well as a link to rate and review my podcast on Podchaser. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, all you have to do is scroll down to the rate and review section. You can find and connect with me on Instagram at The Artist Pivot to see audiograms, fun facts, and posts featuring my guests. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already to get notified when a new episode is out. And please share this episode with at least one friend. Ever heard the phrase found time? Well, Audible helps you find the time to get more stories and information while commuting, cooking, gardening, exercising, etc. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests, as well as guided meditation programs. They have podcasts, theatrical performances, A-list comedy, and exclusive Audible originals you won't find anywhere else. Fun fact, if you listened to every title on Audible, you'd be listening for more than 3 centuries. So click the link in the show notes or visit audibletrial.com/theartistpivot to start your 30-day free trial of Audible and listen to that book you haven't read yet or laugh at a comedy special while doing the dishes. Again, that's audibletrial.com/theartistpivot. Using the link lets Audible know that we sent you and a great way to support the show. You can also support the show by buying me a coffee. Well, not literally, but figuratively. Click the Support the Show link in our show notes, and it will take you to a site called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can support the show with your donations. If you do ever want to buy me a coffee in real life, my favorite coffee is the Italian brand Lavazza. No, they did not pay me to say that. This episode was edited by Kieran Niemand and produced by me, Ayana Major Bay. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll speak to you soon.